Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. And today we are talking all about money. Well, sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah. Well, it's more about the psychology of money, really. We're diving into Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money, a book that challenges us to think differently about, well, our finances. I think a lot of us are always looking for that hot stock tip or, trying to time the market perfectly.
Right, that get rich quick scheme.
Exactly. But this book says, hey, hold on a second. What if the real key to financial success is not out there in the market, but within ourselves?
It really flips the script, doesn't it?
Right.
Because Housel suggests that, our emotions, those hidden biases we all have, they can play a bigger role in our financial decisions than we even realize.
Way bigger, probably. And that's what we're going to unpack today. So, imagine for a second you're Ronald Reed.
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, he was a janitor, right. Worked his whole life as a janitor. But get this. When he died, he had an $8 million fortune.
Wait, $8 million? A janitor?
Yep. No inheritance, no risky ventures, just slow, steady saving and investing over decades. Housel uses this story to illustrate something he calls financial magic.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Financial magic.
Think of it like this. Even small, consistent investments can grow exponentially over time. It's the power of compounding.
Compound, you mean like interest, earning interest?
Yeah, kind of. Let's say you invest just $100 a month for 20 years with an average return of, let's say, 7%.
Okay, $100 a month, not too bad.
You'd end up with over $48,000 just from those contributions and letting time do the work. So it's not about winning the lottery overnight.
Gotcha. Slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. But Housel also throws a bit of a curveball. He talks about luck.
Luck, like random chance in finance.
Yeah. He says, look, you can't talk about risk without acknowledging the role of luck, and you can't talk about success without acknowledging the role of risk.
That's an interesting perspective.
It makes sense, though, right? I mean, there are people who make all the right financial decisions, and still things don't work out the way they planned.
Or the opposite, right? People stumble into success seemingly out of nowhere.
Yeah, and that can be hard to swallow sometimes, the idea that we're not always in control. Which brings us to Housel's view on predicting the market. Spoiler alert, he's not a fan.
No crystal ball, huh?
Nope. The book argues that trying to predict the market is like trying to, well, predict the future. It's just not possible.
Well, that takes the pressure off a bit, I guess. No more stressing over every little market fluctuation.
Right. So instead of chasing certainty, what does Housel suggest? Embracing uncertainty.
Embracing uncertainty. Sounds a bit counterintuitive.
It's about shifting your focus from trying to control the market to managing risk and developing a strategy that can withstand those inevitable ups and downs.
Okay, so instead of trying to predict the future, we plan for the unpredictable. Sounds reasonable.
And a key part of that is diversification, right? Not putting all your eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Diversification. Spreading your investments across different asset classes, industries, geographic regions, it's a classic strategy for a reason.
Exactly. So we've covered quite a bit already. The power of compounding, the roles of luck and risk, the futility of market prediction, and the importance of diversification.
It's like we're laying the groundwork for a solid financial mindset.
Absolutely. But, it wouldn't be a deep dive into the psychology of money without talking about those psychological traps, the ones that can really trip us up.
Oh, those are always fascinating and terrifying in equal measure.
One trap that Housel talks about is over-optimization. And I know I'm guilty of this.
Over-optimization.
It's that constant tweaking and adjusting, that need to find the perfect investment or the perfect financial plan. We think we can outsmart the market or control every variable.
The quest for the perfect portfolio. It's a slippery slope, isn't it?
It can be. Housel argues that this constant striving for optimization can actually lead to worse outcomes.
Too much tinkering, too many fees, too much stress.
Exactly. He says that sometimes a simple, sustainable strategy, something you can stick with over the long term, is the best approach. Simple and sustainable. That's a message I can get behind.
It's about finding that balance, right? Being informed and proactive, but not letting the details bog you down.
Less noise, more signal.
Love that. And, all of this really ties back to something Housel emphasizes throughout the book. Emotional discipline.
Ah, yes, the ever-elusive emotional discipline.
It's about recognizing those moments when fear or greed or impatience are driving your decisions.
Because we've all been there, haven't we? Making a financial decision based on emotion rather than logic.
Oh, for sure. I mean, think about it. How many times have you bought something you didn't really need just because it was on sale?
Or sold an investment in a panic because the market dipped. Guilty as charged.
Right. And that's why Housel says that developing emotional discipline is so crucial. It's about creating that space between an emotion and a reaction. Before you make a big financial decision, take a breath. Ask yourself, am I thinking clearly here?
It's like hitting the pause button before you hit the buy or sell button. Exactly. And it's not easy, but it's a skill you can develop over time. It's fascinating, this whole conversation about emotional discipline, because it makes you realize that understanding the psychology of money is really about understanding ourselves.
It is, isn't it? It's about uncovering those hidden forces that drive our behavior with money.
And that's just the beginning. There's so much more to unpack, so much more to learn about ourselves and our relationship with money.
One thing that really stood out to me was the idea of, defining your own success.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Because it's so easy to fall into that trap of comparing ourselves to others.
Big, oh, my neighbor just bought a new car. I need a new car.
Right. Or so-and-so just got a promotion. I should be further along in my career.
Yeah.
All that stuff. But Housel is like, hey, pump the brakes. What does success actually mean to you?
Not to your neighbor, not to your coworker, but to you.
Exactly. What brings you joy? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world? How do you want to spend your precious time?
It's about aligning your financial goals with those deeper values and aspirations.
Right. Because money, at the end of the day, it's a tool.
A tool to help you build the life you want.
Exactly. And that life might look different for everyone.
Totally. For some people, financial success might mean, early retirement, traveling the world.
For others, it might be starting a business, finally pursuing that creative passion they've always had.
It's about finding what truly resonates with you, what makes you feel fulfilled, and then using your financial resources to support that vision.
And I think that's such a powerful message because it takes the pressure off. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's about creating a life that's authentically yours.
So, less about the stuff and more about the substance.
Exactly. And speaking of substance, let's go back to emotional discipline for a second. Housel keeps coming back to that idea, and for good reason.
It's like the foundation of everything, isn't it? Because without it, you can have the best financial plan in the world, but
But if you can't control your impulses, if you're constantly reacting emotionally to every market fluctuation,
it's like trying to build a house on sand. It's just not going to be stable.
right? So how do we cultivate that emotional discipline?
Especially in a world where we're bombarded with messages telling us to spend, spend, spend.
It's tough. It takes a conscious effort to resist temptation.
I mean, think about all the targeted ads, the sales, the social media influencers flaunting their latest purchases.
It's designed to trigger those impulse buys. But that's where having a strong sense of your financial values comes in handy.
Knowing what you're working towards, what's truly important to you, that can help you say no to those things that might derail you.
It's like having that inner compass that guides your decisions.
And Housel gives some practical tips too, right? Like
Right.
creating a budget that actually aligns with your values, automating your savings, surrounding yourself with people who support your goals.
Those are all great strategies. But I think it also requires a shift in mindset. Viewing money as a tool to help you create the life you want, not something to be feared or obsessed over.
It's about finding that balance, that healthy relationship with money.
And while we're talking about those unexpected twists and turns, Housel also brings up these things called tail events.
Tail events. I'm not sure I'm familiar with those.
There are those rare but super impactful events that can, shake up the entire financial landscape.
Oh, okay. Like the 2008 financial crisis or the dot-com bubble burst.
Exactly. Things you can't really predict. But they can have a huge impact on your financial well-being.
So what do we do? How do we prepare for something we can't predict?
Well, Housel's point is that we shouldn't try to predict the unpredictable. Instead, we should build resilience into our financial strategy.
Resilience, like being able to bounce back from setbacks.
Yeah. Diversify your investments, have a long-term perspective, and most importantly, don't freak out and make rash decisions when the market takes a dip.
Easier said than done sometimes. But yeah, it's about remembering that market fluctuations are normal.
They're part of the journey, and having that long-term view can help you weather those storms.
So it's not about avoiding risk altogether, but about managing it in a way that aligns with your goals and your risk tolerance.
Exactly. And recognizing that, sometimes things don't go according to plan.
Life throws curveballs. But with the right mindset and a solid strategy, you can navigate those challenges and ultimately achieve your goals.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
I love that. Slow and steady wins the race, right? And it's not about chasing quick wins or timing the market perfectly.
It's about making those smart, consistent decisions that are in line with your values and your long-term vision.
It's almost like House is giving us permission to relax a little, to not get so caught up in the day-to-day fluctuations of the market.
And to focus on the bigger picture, building a life that we love, a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling.
And that brings us back to that core idea from the psychology of money. Our financial well-being is deeply connected to our emotional well-being.
Absolutely. When we understand our own psychology, our own unique relationship with money, that's when we can make choices that are not only financially sound, but also support our overall happiness.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
It's not just about the numbers. It's about living a good life, a life that's aligned with what truly matters to you.
I feel like this whole conversation has been so insightful. It's like we've gone beyond the surface level of personal finance and really gotten into the heart of the
To
matter.
me, too. And one of the things that really stood out to me was House's emphasis on that connection between money and freedom.
Oh, yeah, that was powerful. He defines financial freedom as the ability to make choices that align with your
Right.
values.
So it's not about a specific number in your bank account. It's about having the agency to live a life that reflects your values, your passions, your purpose.
It's about having the resources to do the things that matter most to you.
Exactly. And that got me thinking, if financial freedom is about making choices that align with your values, well, what are those
That's
values?
a great question. It's like, okay, we've talked about the why of financial freedom, but now we need to get specific. What are the actual values we're trying to live by? And how do those values actually translate into our financial decisions? That's the real challenge, isn't it? Figuring out how to connect those big picture values to the day-to-day choices we make with our money.
Absolutely. It's about bridging that gap between our aspirations and our actions.
Yeah.
And I think it starts with really getting clear on what those values are. Like, what are the guiding principles that shape how you want to live your life?
Is it freedom, security, creativity, impact? I mean, there are so many possibilities in
Right.
it.
And once you have a better understanding of those core values, you can start to evaluate your financial decisions through that lens. Like, does this purchase align with my values? Or is this investment supporting the kind of world I want to live in?
It's almost like using those values as a filter, a way to make sure your financial choices are in alignment with your bigger goals.
Exactly. And it's not always easy. Sometimes there are trade-offs, right? You might have to make a decision that compromises one value in order to prioritize another. But I think the key is to be conscious of those choices and to make them intentionally.
That makes sense. So it's not about being perfect, it's about being aware.
Right. It's about striving for that alignment between your values and your actions, even if you don't always hit the mark. And I think that awareness, that intentionality can make a huge difference in how you feel about your finances and how you experience your life overall.
And that's what I love about the psychology of money. It's not just about the technical aspects of finance, it's about the human side of it.
It's about understanding the emotions, the beliefs, the values that drive our financial decisions. And it's about using that understanding to make choices that create a life of greater meaning, purpose, and, well, yes, financial freedom.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. So, to our listener, if you're looking for a book that will challenge you to think differently about money and inspire you to create a life that's aligned with your values, then I highly recommend checking out The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. It's a book that will stay with you long after you finish reading it. And as always, keep diving deep